Why are there gaps on the surface of your brain?
So the surface of the brain is called the cortex. It's kind of like the bark on a tree. It's this layer on the outside where a lot of the actual cells are that do kind of the thinking. And as humans, because we have a very, very complex and complicated brain, our cortex is really, really big. And it's so big that in order to fit inside of our skulls, the brain has to kind of be folded and kind of crumpled up like a piece of newspaper so that it can fit. And it's this crumpling that kind of makes the brain look kind of really wavy and folded on the surface. So they're not actual gaps, they're more like creases and folds so that our brain can fit inside of our skull. And other animals whose brains aren't quite as complex as humans' brains don't have as big of a cortex, and so their brains look less wrinkled and have fewer gaps on the surface of their brains.
How exactly is the brain powered?
What's Your brain's incredibly expensive in terms of energy, so your body has to do a lot of work to get energy to your brain. So your brain's using a lot of the oxygen that you get coming into your body, and your brain's actually using a lot of the food that comes into your body to just simply to exist as a brain. It actually costs a lot to have this organ in our heads. And then beyond that, you also do a little bit more work every time you actually do something with your brain. So it's an expensive piece of kit that we've got.
How does it work?
The brain works at many different levels. If you think about different parts of the brain, they all do different things. They help you think differently, act differently, feel different things. Now if you think about in each region, there are different cells that themselves do different things. Then if you think about underneath these cells, there are all kinds of chemical processes and all kinds of electrical impulses that make those cells do different things. And together, the brain does what it does.
Why do we need a brain?
Brains are really important for being able to do complex things and react to your world in a complex way. So if you're a little unicellular organism, so you're just one cell, you don't need a brain because pretty much the cell can control itself. But as soon as you start having bodies made up of multiple cells, you'll find something that starts to look a bit like a brain, particularly as the behaviour starts to get more important. So we are really complex animals and we have absolutely enormous brains.
What would happen if we didn't have a brain? Would we still be alive?
If we didn't have a brain, pretty much not much would happen at all, because more or less everything that you can do, from breathing and walking through to thinking and singing, is being controlled by your brain. So brains are really important in terms of how you see the world and being able to act on the world.
How does the brain control the whole body?
So this question is about a part of the brain called the motor cortex. And the motor cortex is a strip of brain roughly in a line down here from the top of your head to the ear on the right side, and also another strip from the top of the head to the ear on the left side. And in this part of the brain there are cells which send little electrical signals to the muscle on the opposite side of your body. So the cells in the motor cortex here on my right side of my brain control all the muscles on the left side of my body, and the cells in the motor cortex on the left side of my brain control all the muscles on the right side of my body. So for example, I'm right-handed. When I write my name, I hold my pen in my right hand, and that means it's my left motor cortex which is actually telling all the muscles in my hand how to move my fingers and my wrist to make really nice, clean, tidy handwriting.
Does your brain have a capacity of knowledge and then get full up?
Your brain can hold as much knowledge as you want. As far as we know, there is no physical limit to how much information can be held by the brain. You can learn more as much as you want. You can change the information in your brain. Sometimes there are problems, but it's usually because you haven't eaten well, or maybe because you're tired and you can't store more knowledge into your brain. And sometimes things go wrong in the brain itself, and then there may be a limit on the knowledge that is stored.
If your brain explodes, then would lots of blood pour out?
Well, your brain is an organ in your body, like any other organ. And so it uses the blood pumped by your heart to get oxygen and other nutrients so that it can function. So, yes, you have arteries and veins going to and from your brain to bring blood and take blood away. So yes, if your brain were to explode or if you were to have a really terrible, terrible accident, there is blood going around your brain, and so yes, blood would pour out.